marsh desert of Sonora and New Mexico. When the early Spanish explorers stumbled upon these magnificent ruins, and this huge edifice, which they were later to call Casa Grande, the big house, when they looked and saw the huge canal that extended clear from the Gila River down into this valley and watered this whole area for leagues about them, and other magnificent ruins, it must have dawned upon them that this new world was not a new world. This desert was not a new desert, for here was a civilization that was already in ruins, that had probably stood for 1,000 years. Their architecture, their pottery, their system of irrigation left them in awe. As they asked the Indians about them, who were these people? Where did they come from? Where did they go? The Indians could only say, we don't know. We only call them the Hobogams, the forgotten ones. Only the desert knows, and it is silent. In the 17th century, a new assault was made on the frontier by the Spaniards, hoping to convert and unite the scattered survivors in this desert climb. After half a century, the Spaniards learned that fear would never conquer the natives of the new lands. New expeditions led by missionaries who preached the word of peace and prosperity drove the settlements and the villages of the north. The missionary became the key to Spanish expansion north of the Sinaloa River. Supplied with food and fascinating trinkets, he enticed the suspicious nomadic people to establish new permanent villages, new settlements, where a more disciplined life responded to the tolling of the mission bells. The great missionary orders of Europe, the Franciscans and Jesuits, penetrated everywhere in this frontier. The gray robes of Francis of Assisi spread north to New Mexico and east to Texas, and the black robes of Ignatius of Loyola moved along the shores of the Pacific to Arizona and California. Although their methods differed, their purpose was the same. They wanted peace to reign amongst the hostile natives and prosperity as vassals of the King of Spain. primary purpose was to Christianize the Indians, but they also had other purposes in mind. Educate them in this. And so it was. Look for the most fertile plots of land, there to plant the new seeds they brought from Spain, to raise new crops, there to raise cattle, sheep, and pigs. There they taught the Indians new forms of irrigation and introduced the plow. And the Indian himself grew to love this way of life, the mission life. The church itself was usually a crude ramada or a jacal, nothing more than that. Later on, as he taught them new crafts and skills, the very Indian himself helped him build these lovely mission churches that dotted this land. And as it grew more successful, the familiar plaza was built in front of the church. And from the seeds of these beginnings, these early settlements, grew the famous towns of Hermosillo, Los Angeles, San Diego, Tucson, and San Francisco. But the missionary, in many instances, was not always successful. Famine and marauding Indian bands who attacked the missionary settlements, running off the cattle and burning their crops, wrapped up their work in smoke and ashes. The cruelest blow to the missionary effort was an edict signed by Charles III that suppressed the Jesuit order. All missionaries were pulled out of Sonora, Baja California, and later deported to Mexico as common criminals. In the place of the Jesuits, to continue the civilizing of the frontier, came men of another cloth, the brave old Franciscans. Now it was their task to rebuild and build anew upon the foundations laid down by the Jesuits.